from my favorite brewery, things like that. And
should have told me. I would have joined you if it was beer.
Hey, well, but the point being, the more elastic the spend use case, right? Yeah. The higher the market reach, the easier it is to onboard non-crypto natives. And there's a direct correlation between token spend and elasticity in token value appreciation. And, to your earlier point, how do we get more projects to start thinking along those lines beyond just the core native use case? Like Akash, for example, those of us that are invested, that are involved in the ecosystem, yes, we understand the value, but the average Joe is not looking to spin up a node. You go to a college campus, you go to a journalism school, they're not even, they might work their cell phones, but they're not techies. They're just people, okay, I get the token, now what? And okay, well, you can stake it. Then what? You can LP it. Then what? Hubba. So it gets into this, when I say, how do they diversify their spend use cases? To your point, perhaps that's going to be the next. And taking that Binance example, I think that might be the next evolution, in addition to UI, UX being the next big thing. Because right now, the cognitive load for Web3 is pretty high. And we need to bring it down to lower the barrier for people to enter positions, whether as a user, in whatever the case is, comfortably without needing to spin up a command line interface to do different things.
So my position here is I think that when it comes to token design, there is a bit of duality. And what I mean here is, and I've had this problem, like I've woken up with this problem for the majority of the last 2 years, right? Because the duality of token design that is in my head right now is, how do we design our system involving this token? Because what we can do is, do you need the token in order to access even the very fundamentals of the system that we've developed? Which obviously then it serves doubly as this gatekeeping mechanism, which means no token, no entry, right? You cannot participate, whether it's a protocol or anything else, which is obviously a hindrance to mass adoption. Or do we approach this with, there are various benefits of being a token holder, or this token gives you additional things in the system that we're building, right? So that's one thing that I want to say. I definitely do believe that I have a huge issue, like what you just mentioned a second ago. Like, what can you do with the token? Well, you can stake it. And it's like, so, but what do you mean by staking? Because this is so problematic, because we've taken staking, like as an industry, we've taken staking. What it used to mean is you are securing a proof of stake or a delegated proof of stake network, right? Like you are the beginning of the funnel for block validation, essentially, right?
Oh.
And which is super important. And right now it basically means, well, you stake your token, so you lock it up. Okay, but why do I do that? Because you get more token. It's like, okay. Cool, like
exactly.
and that's where my issue is. If it's like, that's actually something, like not to, like, I don't want to shill Angelblok or anything. Like, if anybody listening wants to check it out, be my guest. But that's one thing that we did, like when we were looking at our protocol, and like obviously like we're doing a pretty big thing, which is like we want to be the native infrastructure for how fundraising is conducted in crypto, right? Like we just think it's a very problematic space the way it's done right now. And when we were designing staking, like in the beginning, we're like, should we do a staking? It's like, but like I voiced my concerns very early. Like, I just don't want it to be, like, oh my God, million APY, just don't sell my token. Like, because I just think it's BS. Like, I know people made money on this, but like, I can't be a part of something I don't believe in, right? Like, maybe it sounds trivial, maybe it sounds, infantile, but like, I just don't care about that stuff. And when we designed the system, we treated this cross section of community members, investors, startups, like it is a network. Even though we're built on Ethereum, like the protocol is a network in and of itself. So if we look at staking as a way of securing that network, what's some of the cool stuff that we can do, right? And that's when we spun up this idea of validators. And validators actually have like it's not going to be a full-time job, but there's obviously going to be people that take it to, you know, full-time job extents, just like running nodes or being a validator. People treat it as a full-time job these days, or being a miner.
I've seen some hardcore validators.
Yeah.
Like they live.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where I'm coming from. It's like, I don't want this to be a full-time job for someone, but I also do realize that there might be enough at stake where it might be profitable for someone to have this be their full-time job. And we're actually talking with a few VCs, some of the people that we like working with, about coming on as being validators, because we want them to be performing a lot of the due diligence for new startups that are being onboarded. Because at the end of the day, you know, we're just like a 27-person team, right? And one of the blockers, like, we can't be Uniswap, because in Uniswap, everyone is just, you know, import contract address, right? And we can trade a new shitcoin. Like, we can't do that. Like, there's regulatory aspects, and we're only 27 people, but we also don't want to be a blocker for automation and decentralization. So that's why we have this entire system of delegators, validators, Angelblok DAO to kind of, you know, decentralize and autonomize the process. Yeah. And basically have them get a bigger piece of the pie when it comes to staking, because they're actually doing something, you know? And there's a mechanism, like, if you are trying to play the system, you get slashed as a validator from your stake, right? Because you're trying to be a bad actor. You're trying to, you know, make this protocol work in a way that it wasn't designed to. You're trying to cheat someone out of money at the end of the day, right? So, like, I definitely am proud of that system, because at the end of the day, like, I would hate to just be like, you know, hey, they're staking, get more token for, you know, like, whatever.
See, for me, I'm what I call a governance maxi, in terms of you need adults in the room, you know, because you can't control what you can't measure. And, you know, measurement and control is only a function of those who are involved. You know, here are the rules of engagement, right? It's consensus based. But everyone has a stake in the process. Now, from the whole staking perspective, do you think staking programs have almost become oligarchies? Because I have seen some governance measures designed to manipulate chains coming from, you know, like whale validators who somehow marshal. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people.
I mean, like the last days of Luna. Remember, like, the last proposal that I don't think was even implemented. Like, it was just Do Kwon that voted it through with, you know, his one wallet out of multiple, right? So, yeah, that's definitely an issue.
So how do we contain pumps and dumps in crypto?
Oh wow. Well, the easy question and the answer, I mean, the easy answer and the answer that people tend to float towards, and the answer that I think a lot of our elected officials want you to believe is the only one, is via regulation, right? Which
you can't govern by regulation.
Well, tell me how it works in TradFi, right?
You can't govern by regulation. I mean, I floated an idea once around, pardon me, I call it the ICBM, Intercontinental Blockchain Mechanism, where, let's be frank, we know who many of these bad actors are. So, can we implement a global mechanism that, I'm not a fan of blacklisting people, but if you're on the record and you've done shady stuff, we all know who they are, right?
Yeah.
You know, put it, a global registry, public registry, whatever you want to call it, you know, where if you're doing your due diligence, just run the checks. The same way the SEC governs. You know, the crazy thing is, we want to decentralize, but there still has to be some governance mechanism that ensures that via consensus, not a bunch of dudes just putting rules together, right? Some mechanism in place that anyone doing business or anyone engaging with certain projects, you can just go and check it against the registry via consensus. If everyone said this person's a bad, it's public trend, there has to be some mechanism. Okay, people have amnesia. The whole issue with Terra, whatever. Oh, it turned out, he did it before. He did it twice in the past. Duh. Yeah. You know, here we are. Right.
Well, you know, like, I don't know what the protection measures on Suzu's and Kyle Davies' new exchange GTX are going to be. That's another thing. But you know, the flip side of this is, like, you know, when what was it? I know DYDX blocked US users from like day one, like they IP blocked them. but it was a lending protocol. I want to say Aave. I don't remember. Like, do you remember? I think it was midpoint of last year, or maybe even earlier, that they started blocking some wallet addresses, right, that were associated with something, and people were in an uproar.
I'm pretty
sure. Yeah, I think so too.
Correctly.
I don't remember why they were blocking them. They were like either blacklisted addresses. I don't think they were, IP based blocking. No, I don't think that's what it was. But it was like, yeah, it was like close to a year ago, and people were in an uproar because it's like, oh, but it's DeFi and it's all this. But on the other hand, it's like, but why do I need to, like, if we design this protocol, right, and we want to do it, what's best for the users, right? Like, why should we allow, like, I'm not saying I agree with this, but on the other hand, like, I do understand them doing it. And like, we designed this protocol, it's open to everyone, but let's keep it with good actors, what is so bad for decentralization, for openness, if there are some addresses that we say like, hey, like, we don't want you a part of this because we don't want, we don't want a user who's been with us for, the last 2 years or whatever, who is, I don't know, a mom and pop store, I'm making this up, like a mom and pop store in San Francisco or something, who doesn't want any trouble at the end of the day. We don't want them getting USDC or USDT at the end of the day that they deposit with Binance, with Coinbase, and Coinbase says, well, we actually track this USDC that you have to like a terrorist cell, in somewhere, right? Like, that's happened with Bitcoin. Like, I don't think people remember that there is this concept of, like dirty Bitcoin, like Bitcoin that you got from a shady source. And one of the early unique selling points of Coinbase, like back in like 2016 or 2017, is like no, we make sure that all the Bitcoin that we have is legit. We know, you're not going to get shut down from any agency in the future if you hold it. And I think people forgot about that in the last few years. It's it's just like crypto is crypto. It's like not really. It's not really.
No. There's crypto and there's crypto the same way in the money laundering space. There's dirty money. If my bank account, if I got 6-7 digit transfers in, I'm getting a call. Like, you come in to do some extra KYC on this. So again, it's like the same people who want to defund police, but when they hear a strange sound in